Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as SaffronOlive. We're back here with another edition of Budget Magic. We're heading back into Modern again with a deck that is definitely the cheapest deck ever to be featured on Budget Magic, and might be the most hilarious. I think that's probably true as well. We're talking about a deck called Zombie Hunt for Modern, and as you can see, this deck is basically free online. It is 0.53 of a ticket, and there's a decent chance you just have these cards already sitting around in your collection, and it's about $18 in paper. I should warn you right off the bat, I wouldn't recommend making this deck your primary deck, but I highly recommend building this deck because it is really fun and really funny when it goes off. I definitely wouldn't trust it to take down a big tournament because it's very inconsistent, but when it gets its best draws, it can beat just about any deck in the format. Usually kills on turn 3 or turn 4. Anyway, notice the name Zombie Hunt. It comes from the only 2 non-land cards in the entire deck. As you can see, we are playing 54 lands and 6 spells. Spell number 1 is Treasure Hunt. Definitely the most important card in our deck. Treasure Hunt is a 1 and a blue sorcery that says reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal a non-land card, and then put all the cards revealed this way into your hand. So as I mentioned before, we are playing 54 lands and 6 non-land cards. So when we cast Treasure Hunt, we're hopefully drawing 15, 20. I think the most I've drawn was 38 cards. So it's basically the ultimate draw spell if you like drawing lands. So the idea here is we have to have a Treasure Hunt in our opening hand. Since we have 54 lands, this deck is very likely to have 7 land opening hands. So the idea is we mulligan until we find a Treasure Hunt. We can mulligan all the way down to 1 to find a Treasure Hunt. Doesn't really matter. It's sort of like vintage Dredge in that way, where you just have to have the Bazaar of Baghdad, or else you can't really keep the hand. So we mulligan until we find Treasure Hunt. We cast Treasure Hunt. When we cast Treasure Hunt, hopefully we're getting a whole bunch of lands in our hand, and since it stops revealing cards once it hits a non-land, we are either going to hit another Treasure Hunt or a Zombie Infestation. Zombie Infestation is a enchantment, 1 in a black, that says discard 2 cards, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. So we can Treasure Hunt, draw a whole bunch of lands. Eventually we will hit our Zombie Infestation. Then we play our Zombie Infestation, and we can start discarding lands to make 2/2 zombies. The other key piece of this deck is a Reliquary Tower. Reliquary Tower is a land, so we can hit it with our Treasure Hunts, and it taps for 1 colorless, but the main text here is you have no maximum hand size. The ideal opening hand is a Treasure Hunt and a Reliquary Tower, because that means we can play a land on turn 1. On turn 2, we can play Reliquary Tower and Treasure Hunt, and we can draw as many lands as we can possibly hit. Like I said, 15, 20, sometimes 30 something, and we don't have to discard any of these lands thanks to the Reliquary Tower getting rid of the hand size requirement. If we do not have a Reliquary Tower in our opening hand, then we have to wait until turn 3. So we play a land, then on turn 3 we Treasure Hunt. And remember, don't keep a hand without a Treasure Hunt. That's the one rule of this deck. So on turn 3 we Treasure Hunt, and we hope that in all the lands that we draw, one of those is a Reliquary Tower. Then we play the Reliquary Tower and continue to go off from there. Otherwise, we have 24 islands, 20 swamps, 3 dismal backwaters, and 3 fairy conclaves. I also played 3 copies of a Creeping Tar Pit, just because I happen to have them in my collection. The manlands really are not necessary. I never actually won a game or even dealt any significant amount of damage thanks to the manlands. They're just kind of there. And that's one of the cool things about this deck. You technically could spice it up with whatever lands you wanted. I don't know what the best options are, really, or if there's any that are even that important, but you could play more dual lands and whatever, because Treasure Hunt doesn't care. As long as it's a land, it's hitting it. And then our sideboard, we have 7 islands, just in case we need more lands, I guess. 4 Duresses and 4 Dispels. The problem is, we really can't sideboard in these cards, because that is more non-lands for our Treasure Hunt to hit. And we really want our Treasure Hunt every time to either hit more Treasure Hunts or a Zombie Infestation. Treasure hunting and drawing some cards and a Duress just isn't what we need, because then that stops the chain. Like, the idea is to chain these Treasure Hunts and fill our hand with tons of lands and eventually find the zombie infestation, and then we make 10, 20, 25, 2/2 zombies, and win the game on the spot. The nice thing about zombie infestation is that you can do this at instant speed. So this gets around Pyroclasm and Anger of the Gods. So with Reliquary Tower, we don't have to discard, so we can just wait till our opponent's end step, and then we discard our whole hand basically to the zombie infestation, make all the zombies, untap, swing with the team, and win the game. At least that's the idea. So things that are very bad for this deck are counter spells. Getting a treasure hunt countered is very painful because, like I said, we basically just mulligan until we find this, and we really need that to resolve because we have so many lands in our deck. The odds of us just naturally drawing a second one aren't that high. Other thing that's bad is if, say, we're on the play and we have our treasure hunt, we play our land, we're all excited, waiting for the turn 2 treasure hunt, and our opponent plays a Thoughtseize or a Inquisition of Kozilek or whatever. That's also very bad for us, just like counter spells. One way to potentially get around the counterspell problem would be to play Busiji, who shelters all, which is a land that makes spells uncounterable at the cost of 2 life. So if you wanted to, you could get around the counter problem like that. It's basically like a Cavern of Souls, but for spells. But really, you just go for it with this deck. And when it works and it doesn't get countered, it is super awesome. So, like I said in the beginning, I wouldn't make this your only modern deck. I wouldn't expect, like, I got some messages and some comments from people that actually took our Blistering Rage deck to GP Copenhagen yesterday and won some matches and didn't top 8, but actually put up a decent performance on day 1 playing Blistering Rage. I wouldn't do that with Zombie Hunt, but at the same time, it is so super cheap. You got to put it together just to try it because it's so hilarious and so funny when it works. And it's just, I mean, it's free basically online. 0.53 ticks. What is that? Like a couple of bulk rares from your last draft? Like, you can put this together so cheaply and easily. You got to try it. I would definitely take it to like an F&M, just because the look on your opponent's face will be great when they play their things, and then you draw 40 lands on turn 2 and kill them on turn 3 or turn 4. So I definitely would recommend it for that level or for casual play, but I wouldn't take it to the GP circuit. I don't think it's ready for that. We'll go on to the videos. I think they're pretty entertaining. I hope you enjoy them, and I will be back next week with more Budget Magic.